Well, all right, folks. Glad you can join me. Today is this was the 11th of May, and so I think I recorded it in three parts, and so the beginning part was a warm up, and what we're going to do here is, like the title suggests in some way, is we're going to hang out together and we're going to chat a little bit as we're all warming up, and excuse me. Hopefully you're warming up too. And so this will be stuff about fighting, about the workout process, but also just stuff about me as well and things. I like to do this type of workout because I like to do this kind of warm up because I love what I do, and I just love the process and been doing it all my life. So I like to kind of like it's sort of like hanging out. So you're hanging out with yourself, practicing these motions, practicing all these little technicalities and flow, and you don't have to be so serious, or you can be scrutinizing and analyzing yourself and things like that. But yeah, so I like this kind of warm up. Do I always do this kind of warm up? No. In fact, I've also had times when I've done a minimal warm up, and I know that it's not ideal. Like not even a lot of stretches, even though I've shown a lot of stretches and it's good to stretch, and a lot of times I have stretched, but like, there's a certain percentage, 25% of the time, I just did like a very quick warm up, a very quick stretched out, this, that, this, nothing really comprehensive, and then I was good to go. Because probably during the actual workout itself, I sort of made it like a warm up part or a softer part, getting into more intense. If I was in more formal situation, classes, things like that, and or I was doing a specific training or sparring with a friend, then maybe I might want to be a lot more warmed up. So I do spend a lot of time going to other places and utilizing other places outside and stuff, but because there's heaps of other things that I do as well, and always doing research, always researching our sciences and things like that. I just love that as well, and informations, and just learning more and learning more detail about it and stuff. So I sort of make a compromise. Yes, I would love to just hop in the car or go run to somewhere really fantastical or really somewhere magical and stuff. But working on my stuff in the backyard gives me a good opportunity to just, get to it right away, and then also get to something else after. Like when you see the videos of me grappling, and so we have to go to some place, that's going to be a little bit more time consuming and stuff, and then where I park the car, and then I still have to actually go on a little hike through some areas and things like that, so that's a bit more time consuming, and yeah. So yeah, I often think to myself, and sometimes I've said this, and where, I mean, if I had to describe myself in terms of the physical activity and the level of it and whatnot, and I don't know, but sort of like in the pro sport situation, I often say I'm in retirement now. So when you take someone my age or who has done it, for as long as I have, and you are correlating it to, or comparing it to a pro sport, I would be at the age and at the level or point where I would be retired from the pro sport. So you're not going to find too many people in a lot of pro sports at my age and whatnot who are still operating on a professional level. So what is my age? So I'm definitely over 40, but I'm not 50, but I'm over 40. Is it a big deal to talk about your age still? Is it? I don't know. I mean, does age really matter ultimately? To some things or whatever, maybe it does, or maybe it's more relevant. And to other things, it's not always felt that way. I'm not just going to exclusively say, no, age doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all. I mean, yeah, in spirit, or I love that type of philosophy, sure. But in certain things, it certainly does matter. Okay, there's no sin in saying that, and I'm all about that type of thing. Where including the type of a sound, including good logic and reasoning, doesn't mean that you have to eliminate magic. Doesn't mean you have to eliminate fantastical things as well and stuff. The same way science doesn't automatically, fight against God and stuff like that, and religions and your belief don't automatically mean that you can't use a science and you can't be about a science. Same thing. There's heaps of other kicks in my repertoire that I have, and I don't practice them as much. So I'm going to start trying to practice a little bit more of those just for fun, get back into it, like the wheelhouse and stuff. Why? Because after a certain point, I switched from doing a lot of in-class type stuff and textbook stuff to actually fighting a lot. And switch meaning like I didn't, you have that type of lifestyle, so we were always around fights and things like that. And we'll get into it in this nice warm-up where we're hanging out, and also, hopefully you're warming up and enjoying this process while we're chatting, or you're just using this opportunity to sit down or hang out with me and listen to our chats. I grew up around a rough situation, and I'll backpedal to that in a moment. And so fighting was always involved. But when you start formal training in a martial art, and you're learning a tradition and things like that and stuff, so you're learning a lot of stuff within the classroom, and then you're doing your sparring and stuff, and it's still a lot of big differences. There are similarities, but there are also a lot of big differences. And like one of those differences is, for example, it's very different to spar your friend. Even if you're going to go hard, even if you're telling your friend to don't hold back, there's still, no matter how much you try, within your psyche, within what you know, within the truth of the situation, it's your friend, it's somebody you know, it's somebody who you can feel confident is not going to kick you in the private areas or slash you with a broken bottle or something like that. It's just not, but even though you know that that's not going to happen in most cases in the nice, educational or controlled sparring within schools, still it's a little different, especially for people learning and stuff. Well, maybe you don't know, but you will now. But, there's certainly intensities when you're sparring a stranger, even though within a classroom setting, the stranger's not going to kick your teeth in, okay? But there is still a certain amount of unknown where maybe they're not good enough, or maybe they won't pull their punches, or they just won't do it properly, or they, and they will wind up hitting you in the head. So no matter how you spin it, there is a certain comfort level in sparring your friends. And so what was this whole long-winded thing, friends, family? So what happened was, the more I incorporated and the more I blended the two between what I was learning and how I was defending myself on the street and circumstances like that, I started omitting a lot of certain moves and certain kicks, and I kept other ones that I thought were more efficient and effective for me. I mean, you could use anything, anytime. It's up to you, right? So I came from the old school where one of the theories was you don't want to turn your back, or you want to turn your back against your opponent as little as possible. So I came with that concept. So that was one of the big ones to me too. So I tried to get rid of moves that I needed to turn my back to my opponent and do. I tried to get rid of extremely complicated moves and big-time moves, and also very big looping, swooping moves, all right? It may be very interesting and hard to time, but like a wheel kick, a turnaround wheel kick, they're also very looping kicks and stuff. And no matter how much you whip that kick against a really seasoned pro, they have a very good chance of jamming that kick. Even the proper type of flinch is going to screw your kick. And I've mentioned these type of things when it comes to the roundhouse kick as well and stuff. It's a fast kick, and you can certainly utilize it, and the lower you utilize it, where a flinch isn't as easy, you might have some better results. But like when you do a roundhouse kick low, you're going to see a lot of opponents and stuff lift up their leg, and they're going to do that deflect or shin guard deflection and guard against it, and that's pretty effective and stuff. It's an easy kick to defend against. All of your sweeping, looping kicks, looping punches, they're easy to defend against. Flinches in the opposite direction that the punch is coming in has already done at least 25 probably 25 to 50% effective already in defending and neutralizing, right? All right. So, yeah, let's see. We'll talk a little bit more about some things. I don't know if I'll just keep the whole entire rant going the whole way through or whatnot, but talking theory. So the stuff that we're talking here, you would also find in some of the vlog fight theory videos that I was doing and discussions that I was having. So I thought maybe I would try to incorporate a little bit more personal stuff here in this one as well. So so I wouldn't say I was a late bloomer, but started at 17, and the classes themselves were 3 times a week, but a couple of my friends and I, we were always about being hardcore, so that didn't matter at all to us. We trained every single day. We trained multiple times per day, and we done all of the crazy stuff. Even if we saw it in the movies, we done all of the crazy stuff and put ourselves through all of that stuff. And yeah, at some point I was an emergency medical technician, an EMT. I went and took the classes. I thought that that's what I wanted to do and stuff. And although it didn't turn into a professional or full-time job for me, because I never fully went that way, I just didn't like it and I changed. I did have regular shifts or whatever in working for a volunteer company. And also when you're doing your schooling and stuff, you have to do a certain amount of hours in the hospital, and I don't know. I mean, if I was to share a little bit of details, I'll never lie about it. I'm not going to lie, and I've never lied about this thing. I thought it was like some of the TV shows. I thought it was like the TV shows and the movies and stuff that I was seeing. I thought that I thought it was going to be exciting like that, and like every day, every night was rescues and CPRs and delivering babies and all that stuff. But that wasn't true, and for some people it is, but there's a very large percentage of people that it's not true. You spend a lot of time just hanging around, waiting, and I remember thinking this theory very distinctly. I remember this, where it's like, well, it's not busy now, but I can't really hope for it to be busy, because if I'm hoping it's busy, I'm hoping somebody gets hurt. And I didn't like that idea, like, oh boy, I'm hoping for action. So, you know what I mean? So, like, in one sense, a really dull light, a slow light, boring night, you know, is a good night. Nobody's getting hurt and stuff. But so yeah, we had a lot of those nights, and just hanging out in the ambulance, and then eventually going to get our meals. And I've worked all the night shifts, graveyard shifts and stuff. I like those shifts and stuff. I did some daytime ones as well, but whatever. You know, you get some stuff, but it's true, like they say, you get a lot of medical stuff, you get a lot of elderly and things, and for the majority, I would say, of anything decent or crazy, it's going to be like a car accident, somebody jumping the light while someone else is just trying to make it before it turns red. Usually comes into a real nasty one. Somebody wraps the car around a pole. So there were those a couple of times, but we would have those slow nights often, and then we get a call for something, and like 5-6 ambulance arrive from all the different hospitals and stuff, because, you know, then it's a who's who, and everyone's like, hey, I haven't seen you in a little bit. And doing the rounds in the hospital were okay. I really took a liking to the cardiac stuff, but definitely children injuries and traumas, and kids coming into the hospital with the traumas, that was intense. That was very stressful and stuff. And what else can I share? One more thing, because I'm trying not to go into too much detail and stuff, and it's just also good etiquette and stuff to not go into, you know what I mean, that type of what happens on the field and in the job. You don't share patient information like that. You just don't and stuff. But I can, you know, it's been such a long time, and I remember, and I can generalize. And so one thing that really stood out to me, that I was really impressed and that really influenced me was, okay, so when I started doing the rounds in the hospital, and other times when we brought a patient in, oftentimes in this particular scenario, what I'm getting at is when we brought in a person on drugs, or, you know, inebriated, or very, you know, what's the word? But, you know, disoriented and stuff, and unpredictable, because they're on some kind of drugs, some kind of substance, alcohol, both, right? When when they would freak out or come to or freak out, and I was still at the hospital with filling out paperwork or trying to help the doctors or whatnot, I would like throw my hands up. That was instinct. I would put my hands up in a defensive position, and I remember a couple of times doctors, whatever, giving me a little bit of lecture. They were cool about it, but I also remember how the doctors handled it. And the doctors were like, and because I'm coming from a violent background, so I'm looking at this now, and I'm like, I could see that this guy is really dangerous. And yes, hospitals in Brooklyn, New York, if you didn't know that I was from Brooklyn, New York, they have cops. They have police officers that are actually stationed, that's their beat to work it. And others will at least be involved or come down from wherever they are or whatnot in order to be involved in a certain situation if it's, violent enough and dangerous enough or whatever. But these doctors, they would be like, and it would be dangerous, and occasionally, a doctor would get hit, but they would just have their hands down, trying to just be calm and trying to handle the situation and proceed with the medical stuff. And I just remember how vulnerable they were and how dangerous it was and how easy they can just get blindsided or something. And that was really impressive to me, and a lot of respect to doctors like that, because that was not me. Because these guys, when they freaked out and they started, like, I threw my hands up, I backed up, threw my hands up, I said, I am not getting snuffed by this guy and stuff. But you can't always do that. You can't do that in a professional setting. When you sign up for that, you have to sort of, take a little bit of a risk and stuff, and there is risk. All right. Well, I don't. Hopefully, that's enough little information so far for the warm up. So I'm glad you can join me in this warm up. I ranted and raved about a few things and gave a little bit of some personal stuff, and I'll mix and match and cut them in. And now let's get to some of our drills and stuff, and let's get to work, eh?